Hey, what's going on? I'm here to discuss the new patch 1.1.0a and how it will affect Rogue. Alright, let's jump into it. Starting off, we have 6 unique items, which only 2 of them will affect Rogue. The first one being a Varion Spear of Lycander. Gain a random shrine effect for 10 to 20 seconds after killing an elite enemy. Can only occur once every 30 seconds, and it is a very extremely rare drop. So I do not think that will affect Rogue at all. The next one for Rogue is going to be Eagle Horn. Penetrating shot has a 30 to 80% chance to fire an arrow that bounces off walls and scenery. Hitting enemies from behind with penetrating shot will make them vulnerable 3 seconds. Considering penetrating shot was one of the worst builds for Rogue in my opinion, and that they just nerfed vulnerable and crit damage, I do not think this Eagle Horn bow will be very useful. Moving on to the new aspects. We have Audacity. When there are at least 5 close enemies, stun them for 2 to 4 seconds. This can only occur once every 20 seconds. That could be a pretty useful aspect for Rogue. We can see how that will turn out in the new season. The next one is going to be Craven, a mobility aspect, which can only be put on boots and a necklace. You gain 20 to 40% increased movement speed when moving away from slowed or chilled enemies. So the only way I see this being used for Rogue is if you're running Penitent Greaves and you have this on your necklace. So if you want to give up your necklace slot and wear this, I believe that's the only way this is going to get ran. Next is Rogue. Rogue aspect is Pestilence points. Every third cast of Puncture is poison imbued with 100 to 150% of normal potency. I have no idea how good this is going to be. It could be bad, it could be good. We'll just have to wait and see how the season plays out with all the new nerfs that are in the game. Alright, let's move on to the direct nerfs to Rogue. Starting off with Disobedience. Aspect of Disobedience, maximum stack reduced from 100 to 60, reducing maximum bonus armor percent from 25 to 50% to 15 to 30%. That is a huge nerf considering I ran that in most of my builds. Just gave you a lot more survivability, and on top of the damage reduction nerfs they implied, this is going to hurt quite a bit. The other ones I don't think will affect Rogue too much. Alright, the next one I'm going to look at is going to be Developer's Note. The core stats on weapons. Bonus on weapons has been overperforming, so we're pulling back on this bonus. The only one that affects us here is going to be Dexterity. 50% stronger when on weapons has been changed to 25% stronger when on weapons. So if we take a look at the Dexterity on this crossbow, it is 156, where it used to be 189. And on this sword, now let's go. This sword is at 59, where it used to be 80 something, I believe. See, it's 189 on the crossbow, and it is 75 on this sword. So if we go back and look, it has been moved 20 points on the sword and 33 points on the crossbow. That's quite a big nerf in my opinion, considering all the other nerfs they added directly to Rogue. The next one that we're going to look at is, cooldown reduction reduced by 30%, imbuement skill cooldown reduction reduced by 30%, trap skill cooldown reduction reduced by 30%. That'll help Rogue up a little bit. The next one we're going to look at is Developer's Note. We're seeing that critical strike damage and vulnerable damage often viewed as a hard requirement for a build success in Diablo 4. We believe this is a step towards allowing more builds to flourish and will continue to make changes in support of this goal. Now, instead of increasing the damage of other builds or buffing other skills or traits for other builds, they decided to nerf Rogue's main source of damage, which is critical and vulnerable damage. I think that's a little silly in my opinion. Critical strike damage reduced by 17%. Critical strike damage with bone, earth, or imbued is reduced by 17%. So that's already 217% reduction on top of the vulnerable damage reduced by 40%. That is a huge nerf to Rogue. Moving on to the next one. Developer's Note. Disparities in inherent affixes can rule some weapons out before the rest of their stats are even rolled. These are receiving harsher reductions than their normal affixes counterparts to increase weapon flexibility. Now I'll show you where that is in here in just a second. Critical strike damage inherent on swords reduced by 50%, which was Rogue's main offhand weapon, and vulnerable damage inherent on crossbows reduced by 65%. That is a direct nerf to Rogue in my opinion. Let me show you where that's at. So on this crossbow, where it's at 21% vulnerable damage, where they always roll vulnerable damage, and at 10% critical strike damage, where they always roll critical strike damage, they have been substantially nerfed. So if we go to this video and look at the vulnerable damage, it's at 60%. And if we look here, the critical strike damage is at 26%. That is a huge nerf. That's 40% there and 26%. I mean, 16% there. That's massive damage loss for Rogue. Moving back to the patch notes, because we're not done yet. Damage to crowd control enemies decreased by 30%. So when you ran the controlled glyph, that's going to be nerfed by 30%. Alright, let's look at the good. Physical damage increased by 25%. That'll help. Cold damage increased by 25%. That'll help if you're running cold imbued. Poison damage increased by 25%. That'll help if you're running poison imbued. Shadow damage increased by 25%. Non-physical damage increased by 25%. Physical damage over time, shadow damage over time. I don't think that affects us. All of these buffs, imbued skill damage increased by 25%. Imbuement skill damage increased by 33%. Marksman skill damage increased by 25%. Total armor reduced by 30%. So they decided to decrease Rogue's maximum damage and increase the total damage the Rogue has taken. They also reduced the total damage from close enemies by 20%, damage reduction from distant enemies by 20%, damage reduction from enemies that are bleeding, damage reduction from enemies that are burning, damage reduction for enemies that are poisoned, that are affected by shadow over time, and damage reduction while fortified or reduced by 25%. So that is a direct nerf to every class in the game. You are going to be squishier. Farming higher tier nightmare dungeons are going to be almost impossible because the amount of damage those mobs do are just insane. The developer's note for that is we've been seeing skillful players are frequently slaughtering monsters many levels above their own. We want to support this. But the current situation is beyond what we believe is correct for the long-term health of the game. To chase this goal, we're shifting power to many offensive affixes, as they nerfed Rogue to the ground, in my opinion. From defensive affix, we know this will make our end-game content more deadly, particularly for those chasing our pinnacle boss, and an encounter not meant for the faint of heart. Overcoming the pinnacle boss will take every ounce of grit you can muster and all tools at your disposal. We will continue to evaluate feedback from the community and make changes to our combat mechanics. So not only did they directly nerf Rogue's damage, they directly nerf Rogue survivability. So if you're planning on playing Rogue Season 1, you might want to rethink your decision. Season 1, I will be playing Rogue. I will probably be streaming on YouTube just to show how it is played, how fun it is, and the new season to come. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time. Peace.